He didn't change, he just got comfortable treating you really badly. And that's the part that really hits women because in the beginning, he was there, right? He was paying attention and he was kind and consistent. And you felt that. You felt the connection. But then something changed, right? And it seems to be after commitment, after moving in, after marriage, after babies, after time. And you keep trying to figure out what the hell happened. But look, what happened is that his audition ended. That's what you felt. Before we go any further, my name is Lisa Sonni. I'm a certified relationship coach, and I'm an expert in toxic and abusive relationships. I've written 5 books, and I help women exit these awful, abusive, toxic relationships and help women rebuild after they've left. I want to walk you through exactly what happens in these relationships. Now, we talk about this mask, right? The narcissistic mask or the mask that these men wear. In the beginning, they're honestly watching you so much more than you realize. They're studying you, right? They're paying attention to what lands, what you like, what works. And he's adjusting himself to really match all of that. And conversations feel so easy in the beginning, right? Because he's tracking you, he's studying you, and he's mirroring you. And that's a huge part of this. Now, you feel very understood, right? Unusually fast, though. This is the speed early on in these relationships. They feel very connected, very in love, and you hear things like, oh, I've never met anyone like this before. I've never felt this way before. But their effort is also really high because nothing is secured yet. And in an abusive relationship, the point is get her secured, get her to feel safe. So it feels really natural to you, but there's actually an intention behind this, right? And there's this version of him that gets you attached, gets access to you, access to your time, your body, your life. That's what he wants. Now, you shift this into after the commitment, right? Something that sort of, locks in when it feels like he can't lose you anymore, when it feels like he's got you now. And things that change that are things like moving in, marriage, pregnancy, sharing finances. You have a mortgage together, a lease together, whatever. You are more tied. And therefore, it's harder to walk away clean. Once all of these attachments start happening, he no longer has this need to maintain all of this effort. He relaxes into who he actually is, right? The wooing stage is over. And he's learning what you'll tolerate without ever having to say these things out loud. And then you start adjusting, right? Because he's testing you. He pulls back and he watches what you do when he pulls back. And often we chase. We want that feeling back. So we're working really hard to get that version back. And what he's seeing is that you're willing to tolerate the version of him that doesn't do any of those things that he used to do early on. Now, there's a part that really messes with your head, right? Because you feel this sort of shift. You can see the difference. You feel it in your body, but you really can't totally explain it. And you keep thinking that there's a reason that he's changed and you're not understanding the reason. You must not get it. So you keep working hard and you keep replaying things and you're trying to figure out what's the moment. And a man like this, especially the ones that just hate accountability, they are going to convince you that you are the reason that they stopped being kind to you, right? It's always your fault. And this trains you to look at yourself first, right? You don't bring things up with any kind of attitude or tone. You start learning, not right after work. You should bring it up on the weekend, but then you're dogpiling him with arguments on the weekend from days ago. So that's not a good time either. So you keep changing and shifting. You're trying all these different approaches. And frankly, you're waiting for him to become the man that you thought he was. But see how you stay focused on trying to fix it and he stays comfortable. That's the entire point. The question always is, how do we get back to that? But he's going to convince you that you need to be working hard to get back to that version of him, but that version was never real. And ultimately, that's one of the biggest problems is that you're not questioning what you need to be questioning. So what comfortable actually looks like with him, use some personal examples. I guarantee you'll see yourself in this, right? He doesn't watch himself the same way anymore. He speaks to you in a way that is just shocking. He has less patience with you, right? The irritation sort of shows up a lot faster. He makes comments and they hurt more than they ever did before. And there's a lot more expectation, right? But also a lot less effort. He assumes that you'll handle things. It could even be around the house, right? All of a sudden, he used to do things around the house and now it's, no, you do the dishes, you do the laundry, you take care of everything. Suddenly you start falling into these very traditional gender roles that didn't seem to exist in the beginning. One of the biggest signs of an abusive man's comfort is that he stops trying to impress you, right? He starts acting like access is already there. He's entitled to it. So he's not actually doing anything to keep you happy. The expectation is, I made you happy. Now you're here. Why do you want more of this? Meanwhile, that's how relationships work. You need reciprocity. A lot of these men just want unconditional love, which is really gross because the only person they should expect that from is their mother. And so what's happening to you is you're always braced. You're always nervous. You're walking on eggshells around a guy like this because you're just so desperate to get that version of him back. Women in these relationships stay so focused on trying to get that version back from the beginning because the truth is, it felt so real, right? You remember how it felt in your body and you keep going back to that version and that man, and you think that's the real him and something must have happened to make him different. You start realizing maybe it's trauma, maybe it's his mother didn't teach him, maybe he's got insecurity issues from his ex, maybe he has a stressful job, maybe you're provoking him. Anything except that he lied to you when you first met. So you tell yourself he's still in there somewhere and you wait for these little moments, right? And when those moments show up, and they always do, because intermittent reinforcement is one of the biggest issues in these abusive relationships, right? The oscillation between kindness and cruelty. They're not all bad. So you see glimmers of this nice guy all the time, but it's not consistent. And so you think if you could just get it right, if you can just say the right thing, figure it out, read the right books, get him into therapy, whatever, that he's going to become that version again. You don't want to let go of what felt so good. And all of these memories, it keeps you invested and it keeps you trying. But there's actually a question that matters so much more than anything else, right? It's not about who he was at the start, and it's definitely not about what he says he'll do, because I know it's cliche, but actions speak louder than words. What does he actually do over and over when there's no pressure on him, right? When you stop pushing, when you stop asking, when you just let him be who he is, who is he? Ask yourself that question. How does he treat you on a regular day? What does he expect from you? What does he give you without being asked, right? Because that is going to tell you absolutely everything. You just have to stay with them long enough to see this. And many of us do, but we're blinded by the intermittent reinforcement. But do not lose the fact that someone who's inconsistent, you could even call that consistently inconsistent, right? The good, the bad, it feels really hard to stay on track with who he actually is. But no good man pretends to be bad sometimes. But a bad man, an abusive man, he will absolutely pretend to be good sometimes because it serves him. It keeps you attached, and that's the point. A man like this is very comfortable treating you like garbage. So here you are, adjusting, explaining more, doing more, trying to get that guy back. You watch yourself closely, you change your words, you don't pick fights, you make sure you have no attitude, you make sure dinner's on the table, you might start fawning. This is exactly what happens to so many women, and you're carrying the entire relationship trying to get back a version of him that was never real to begin with. This destroys your self-worth because you think that you caused the change. You just keep trying to be enough again, but you'll never be enough for a man who's empty inside. You could give all you want, give everything you have, and it'll still never be enough for an abusive man. They're really big into, moving the goalposts. That's one of their tactics that keep women so invested. So if you're holding on to who he was in the beginning, I want you to notice the weight of that. The beginning is what hooked you, I know, but the present shows you who he is. And I want you to step back and look at the pattern, because the pattern is where you're really going to see what's really going on, right? Both of these versions of him feel very real. The good and the bad, let's say, it feels so real. One of these versions of him is the part that got you really attached and made you fall in love with him, and it created all this trust and dependency. But the other version of him is the one that you live with more often. So now you're living on hope, you're living on potential, and it's really hard to leave a man like this, particularly if you're stuck in a trauma bond. But in either case, I know that you feel so attached. Now, this is the part that so many women just try to think their way out of instead of actually looking at the pattern. You can make lists of all the things that he's done, and then beside that, make a list of all those things and how they impacted you. People remember how you made them feel. So connect yourself to how he is making you feel so that you can start to see things more clearly and step the hell out of this abusive relationship. If this video helped, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.